Serious market operators, stop everything you're doing because something just shifted under XRP, and almost nobody is talking about it. And when I say shifted, I mean the kind of quiet, structural move that only happens right before the narrative explodes and late money gets absolutely wrecked. So listen closely, because this is not entertainment. This is positioning. What you're about to hear is why XRP just moved from background noise to center stage, while mainstream crypto media is still distracted by meme coins and ETF clickbait. And I'm telling you right now, this changes everything if you understand how power really moves in this market. Over the last few days, there has been a subtle but undeniable alignment between regulatory pressure, institutional silence, and liquidity behavior that does not happen by accident. And when you overlay that with Ripple's long-standing relationships with entities like the IMF, the BIS, central banks, and yes, even firms that orbit BlackRock and the old guard financial system, the picture becomes uncomfortable for anyone who has been laughing at XRP for the last 2 years. Ask yourself this extreme question: why now? Why the sudden calm? Why the strange lack of noise from the SEC when historically they never shut up? And why are on-chain signals and off-chain whispers starting to converge at the same exact moment? This is the kind of moment where smart money goes quiet and dumb money gets loud. And if you've been in crypto long enough, you already know what comes next. Before we go any further, do yourself a favor right now and lock in, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next parts of this breakdown are not going to be repeated anywhere else in this exact way, and missing even one piece of this puzzle could mean the difference between being early and being exit liquidity. I'm not here to hype you, I'm here to prepare you, because what's forming around XRP is not a pump. It's not a rumor. It's a shift in posture from institutions that operate on timelines you and I are never supposed to see. And when that posture changes, the price follows violently. People are asking why XRP refuses to die, why it keeps getting dragged into conversations about cross-border settlements, tokenized assets, and regulatory clarity. And the uncomfortable answer is that XRP was never built for retail speculation. It was built to plug into the plumbing of the global financial system. And when the plumbing starts getting upgraded, you don't get a press release, you get silence followed by shock. This is the setup phase, the moment before the headlines flip, before the same analysts who mocked XRP suddenly pretend they always understood it, and before the crowd realizes they were watching the wrong charts the entire time. So take a breath, drop the noise, and understand that what just shifted is not obvious by design, because if it were obvious, you wouldn't be early, and being early is the only advantage left in this market. Good, because this is where the noise gets replaced by authority and the picture sharpens fast. And if you're still listening right now, you're already ahead of the herd. Let's talk data, not the fake screenshots and recycled tweets, but the kind of signals institutions actually respect. Because while retail argues on social media, the real players read filings, monitor liquidity corridors, and track regulatory tone shifts like hawks. First, understand this: XRP does not trade like a normal altcoin, and it never has. Its volume behavior, its volatility compression, and its correlation divergence from the broader market are textbook signs of an asset being constrained intentionally, and that's not speculation, that's market structure. When you see volume drying up while price refuses to collapse, that's not weakness, that's absorption, and anyone who has watched accumulation phases before knows exactly how rare and dangerous that combination is. Now layer on the authority angle, because this is where people start getting uncomfortable. Ripple has been name-dropped, consulted, or indirectly referenced by the IMF, the World Economic Forum, and central bank working groups more times than any other crypto company not named Ethereum. And yet, XRP remains the most suppressed narrative in the space. Ask yourself why that is. BlackRock doesn't publicly praise assets before positioning. The SEC doesn't soften language by accident, and the BIS doesn't talk about cross-border liquidity solutions without already having preferred rails in mind. When former regulators, treasury insiders, and banking executives keep circling the same keywords: interoperability, liquidity, settlement finality, and regulatory clarity, and those keywords map almost perfectly onto XRP's design, that's not coincidence, that's alignment. Here's another extreme question for you. Why do you think XRP was one of the first digital assets to be dragged into a courtroom while meme coins with zero utility ran free? Was it because XRP was dangerous to retail or dangerous to legacy systems that weren't ready yet? Authority doesn't always show up as an endorsement. Sometimes it shows up as pressure, delay, and containment until the infrastructure is ready to handle what's coming. Even now, watch how XRP is discussed by serious analysts, never dismissed outright, always hedged, always with that uncomfortable phrase, regulatory overhang, because once that overhang lifts, the repricing isn't gradual, it's violent. This is why you're seeing quiet confidence from long-term holders and absolute confusion from traders. Two different games being played on two different timelines, and only one of them ends with institutions ringing the bell. Everything up to this point is the foundation, the authority, the reason XRP refuses to fade away, and now we move into the part that really scares people, the catalyst and the coordinated fear designed to shake you out right before it happens. All right, now we step into the danger zone because this is where the catalyst hides in plain sight and the fear narrative gets deployed with surgical precision. And if you don't understand how this phase works, you will do exactly what they want you to do. Panic, doubt, and sell to someone who knows what's coming next. Every major repricing event in crypto history has been preceded by a wall of FUD that feels overwhelming, exhausting, and oddly coordinated. And XRP has been living inside that environment for years, which should already tell you something. The catalyst is never announced up front, it's fragmented, spread across regulatory language tweaks, institutional pilot programs, and quiet infrastructure upgrades. And right now, XRP is sitting at the intersection of all three. Watch the timing. Global payment rails are being stress-tested, tokenization narratives are accelerating, and suddenly, cross-border liquidity efficiency is back in the conversation with serious people, not influencers, not pump groups, but banks, policy advisors, and settlement networks. This is when the foodie gets louder. XRP is centralized. Ripple controls everything. Banks will never use crypto. You've heard it all before. And yet every single one of those talking points collapses the moment you actually examine how modern finance operates. Banks don't care about decentralization purity tests. They care about speed, compliance, and cost. And XRP was engineered for that exact reality whether crypto Twitter likes it or not. Here's the psychological trick they use. They convince you that because XRP hasn't already exploded, it never will, ignoring the fact that assets positioned for infrastructure adoption move last, not first. Ask yourself another brutal question. Would the IMF, the BIS, and regulatory bodies waste years of discussion on a system they had no intention of ever using? Or is it more likely they needed the legal and political environment ready before flipping the switch? The real catalyst is not a single announcement. It's the moment the narrative flips from lawsuit and uncertainty to compliance and utility. And when that flip happens, the same people spreading fear will scramble to rebrand themselves as early supporters. Defending against FUD means understanding timing, not emotion, because nothing shakes weak hands faster than boredom mixed with doubt, and nothing rewards patience faster than a delayed but inevitable use case. This is the part where you either see the chessboard or keep staring at the price chart, wondering why it hasn't done what you want yet. And the final piece of this puzzle is the one nobody wants to talk about out loud: the price justification and the warning that comes with it. This is where people either lean in or look away, because price is the most emotionally charged topic and also the most misunderstood, especially with an asset like XRP. So let's cut through the nonsense and talk reality. XRP price models that treat it like a meme coin or a simple supply and demand toy are fundamentally broken, because XRP's valuation case is tied to velocity, liquidity demand, and settlement volume, not retail hype cycles. When people laugh and say XRP can't go higher because of supply, they are exposing that they don't understand how liquidity assets function inside financial systems, because no one prices the plumbing of global finance the same way they price a collectible. If XRP captures even a fraction of cross-border settlement flow, and I'm talking fractions of percentages of multi-trillion-dollar daily volumes, the price has to re-rate to support that liquidity demand, not gradually but structurally. This is why you hear extreme numbers whispered and then mocked, not because they're guaranteed, but because traditional models literally break when you apply real-world utility at scale. And here's the final warning that almost nobody delivers. Honestly, the most dangerous moment is not before the move. It's during the early stages of the move. When price starts climbing, narratives suddenly change, and people convince themselves they'll buy back lower, only to watch it keep running without them. That's when regret replaces doubt, and regret is far more expensive. I'm not telling you XRP is going to a specific number. I'm telling you that once the shift we've been discussing fully manifests, XRP will no longer trade like it used to, and by the time that realization hits the mainstream, the opportunity window will already be closing. This is the moment where conviction matters more than prediction, because markets don't reward certainty, they reward preparation, and everything we've walked through points to a repricing event that will feel sudden only to those who ignored the signals. So now the only question left is whether we close this out by connecting every dot and locking the message in your mind, because the conclusion is where the truth becomes unavoidable. This is where the story stops being theoretical and starts becoming personal, because now you can't say you weren't warned. Everything you've heard in this breakdown points to one uncomfortable reality. XRP is not waiting for permission from retail sentiment. It's waiting for alignment from systems that move trillions. And that alignment is no longer a distant idea. It's forming right now in real time, while the crowd is distracted. This is how it always happens. First silence, then disbelief, then shock, and finally revisionist history where everyone pretends they saw it coming. The reason this feels conspiratorial is because it is, not in the movie sense, but in the institutional sense, where decisions are made behind closed doors. Language is softened before policy shifts, and infrastructure is built quietly so there's no chaos when the switch is flipped. XRP has survived regulatory attack, narrative suppression, and years of ridicule, and assets don't survive that unless they serve a purpose that hasn't fully been revealed yet. The final truth is this: markets do not reward intelligence alone. They reward patience under pressure. And the pressure around XRP has been psychological, not technical. If you've made it this far, you're not here for entertainment. You're here because on some level you feel the shift too, the subtle change in tone, the tightening coil, the sense that something big is being prepared while nobody is officially saying it out loud. So remember this moment. Remember that before the headlines, before the analysts flip, before the price forces everyone to pay attention, you were here, early, informed, and positioned mentally for what comes next. Whether you act or not is your decision, but history only remembers those who understood the setup before the move. And when XRP's story is rewritten in hindsight, this phase will be called obvious, even though right now it feels invisible.